Hercules, Thor, the Odyssey, these are legends and myths of ancient times. Things that people in these days looked up to for wisdom and self-reflections on themselves, for guidance and just to find where they want to be in life.
Nice.
And some would like to argue we're kind of in that era again. It's thanks to a small little company in Marvel Studios. So the MCU is a juggernaut of a franchise. It's undeniable, you know, now with the release of Endgame, making almost $1.2 billion in the opening weekend.
Wow.
It's really incredible what they've built over the past 11 years. And as a fan for those 11 years, I feel that I would enjoy talking about to you guys what made it so successful.
Nice.
So I'm going to be discussing where the shared universe concept even came from and how Marvel perfected that idea, really. And then I'll talk about how it really inspired Hollywood and just the audience in general, I mean, as a whole. So we'll start, where did it begin? Well, you may recognize these guys right here. Classic Universal monsters back in around 30s, 40s. This was kind of the first time we've ever seen kind of a shared universe come together where different movies were crossed over from time to time, different characters. From this point, we really didn't really get that same feeling. The only thing we ever got was kind of string of sequels. Example being like the Star Wars, where it was just one cast of characters and an overarching story. And that really all changed in 2008 with Iron Man. This is where really, in the last 30 seconds of the movie, now famous for Marvel, where Nick Fury comes in. I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. And people kind of thought, what is this? This can't be something that's going to happen. They could never pull something off like that. It's never been done. Well, obviously, it was done.
Yep.
And after 5 years, they came out with the Avengers, which changed Hollywood completely and blew everyone away. So now I'm going to really talk about how it did change that, and it really comes from one quote that I have from James Clement, an internet personnel and film critic.
Nice.
He said, every piece of information, no matter how small, can often have a payoff. And that explains perfectly the cinematic universe's way of cause and effect storytelling. How one event in the movie could lead completely different plot into the next movie and kind of balance off of each other and play off of each other really well. So here, you build up all these characters over time, giving these little subtle hints that, oh, maybe Thor is here with his hammer, or Captain America's over there, there's his shield. But instead of focusing on, you know, hey, there's other people here, let's focus on Tony Stark first, then we'll focus on Bruce Banner, and et cetera, et cetera.
Huh.
And then once they come together, you know what they're doing, you know their motivations, you know their characters already. So when they come together, it feels natural that they compel with each other and they fight or they get along, and you understand, which obviously I think made Loki such a great villain. We knew where he came from, we didn't introduce him, and he just came in and did what he had to do.
Huh.
And here's kind of an example of that piece of information can have a bigger effect somewhere else. This line meant kind of a lot to us, but it didn't really sit well until a couple years later when Infinity War came out. Now that line has a completely different meaning and a completely heavier toll on us. Another example being here in the Avengers, we thought, oh, this is awesome, the Hulk's kicking ass and he's doing cool. But then we see in Civil War, he's hurting people and it's really, really bad. And we see these different perspectives and change the tone on how we see the movies going forward, watching back. So next I'm going to talk about how it kind of inspired Hollywood and us. Obviously these movies are not failures. They are making billions and billions and billions every year, to the point where we're at about $20 billion in the entire franchise.
Oh my God.
And you know, the domination of pop culture, and it's really hard to think of a time that they weren't. And so a lot of people in Hollywood thought, let's jump on this, it can't be that hard, right? Well, I mean, we see examples of the DCEU. I'm not going to get into a debate about really if they're clever or not, but we can see that they obviously aren't as successful, and the main reason is, as Mark Walsh puts it, he's a filmmaker and another critic, he says they just didn't have the patience. They wanted to pump out these movies and think, oh, let's have Superman fly across the screen, and that would be the focus of the whole movie, instead of being like, well, what's Batman doing there? What's his whole thing? Why is he doing this? Well, we don't know. And it's only recently now that they realize let's kind of broaden these things out and kind of give them their own little shine. And we've seen other more successfuls, such as The Insidious by James Wan, and ironically, the Universal Monsters came back and really didn't stay too long.
Yeah.
So how has it really inspired us as people? Well, these characters are relatable. They've written these and given these characters flaws. They're not perfect superhuman gods. They're people like us. And they really give us an insight on these immortal, these super strong, indestructible seemingly people have flaws. You know, they suffer from mental illness, they suffer from certain tragedies and stuff, and it really helps us relate to them. It really helps us try to inspire us to be overcome by these obstacles that we have as people.
Nice.
And it's inspired people creatively too. Like myself, I'm really inspired by a lot of what these movies have done. My favorite director being James Gunn, my favorite movies being The Guardians. It's really helped me start to get back into writing, get back into maybe even directing stuff myself.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful that the MCU has brought me into such a new place in my life, and it's really directed me to where I want to be. And yeah, so today I've discussed the MCU's influence on all of Hollywood, on people, where it came from, all the way from the 30s to now, and yeah, how it evolved and inspired everyone. Thank you.